The reading this morning is from John chapter 21, 15 to 17. That will be found on page 1090 of the Church Bible. And also Romans chapter 12, 1 to 13 on page 1139. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Well, yes, Lord," he said. "You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time. "Do you love me?" he said. "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Romans chapter 12, 1 to 13. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing and perfect will. For by grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourselves more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts, according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it is giving, then give generously. So love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spirit fervor, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. This is the word of the Lord.
It is lovely to see you this morning, and particularly if we haven't yet met. My name is James, and I'm going to be helping us this morning look at these parts of the Bible. And you join us as we're sort of in 3 weeks thinking about God's big purpose for the world, and for us as a church, and for each one of us. Shall I pray that God would help us as we do that? Loving Father, thank you for bringing us here this morning, whatever kind of journey or day we've had, Lord, wherever we're at with you. Please, Lord, we dare to ask, please would you speak by your Spirit through your word, that we might be transformed, we dare to pray. If we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I have a dream. I have a dream where churches, and this church is filled with Christians who love Jesus passionately, wholeheartedly. They're committed to him, however costly or sacrificial that may mean. They long to listen to him in his word and pour out their hearts to him in prayer. They're Christians who are all sorts of people. They're black and white, rich and poor, old and young, educated and not, middle class, working class, upper class, any class. They're people who are abled and differently abled. They're people who have been through all walks of life. But a group of people who love each other with a love beyond Sundays, a costly love, one that longs to look out for each other, to give sacrificially and kindly and carefree. The one where the pastoral support team don't do all the pastoral support, but just check in with how people are going. I have a dream where those people, those Christians, go out into the world to live and speak and serve for Jesus, where others hear the good news of the gospel, where others hear and see their acts of love, and where those Christians start to transform the worlds in which they live in. I have a dream of a church of Christians where, like opening the door of an oven as the bread's just started cooking, there is a sweet smell on your nose. It's a dream, if you were here last week, we were sharing. It's a dream we had 5 years ago, and as we saw last week, we saw that it's a dream that God has been doing. His big plan for his church, his plan for Holy Trinity, his plan for his people, his plan for you and for I, is for them to be a growing family where he transforms lives through Jesus. We saw last week, if you were with us, from Ephesians, it's a transformation from death to life, from foe into a family, and transformed to enjoy him together. That's God's big plan. And if you're someone that likes pictures, I 5 years ago drew a picture, and we're going to try and attempt to do it now, Steve. Let's see if it works. There we go. Wonderful. I've got to make sure I don't draw on me. That's what we're going to do. So 5 years ago, I drew you this picture. Forgive me, I got E in art. That was bad. Where the cross transforms people from death to life. That's what God is doing. And he transforms them, remember Ephesians last week, into a family. That's people. Down the bottom, if you can't tell. And 5 years ago, we said, well, how does someone who doesn't know anything about Jesus come to know Jesus? You know, they're way over here. Well, they have a Christian friend who firstly engages them, then secondly explains Jesus to them, and then in God's big plan, they are transformed, brought to life, and then they're helped to be established in their faith, to grow deep like a tree, so that come the storms and the winds that come, they're not going to fall over. And then we want to equip them to serve him, serve his people, serve in the world, wherever they are. And then we're going to send some off, not the ones we don't like, as some cheekily said, but export some, like Ray and Vi to local prisons, or James and Sarah Barnard to Romania, or Compassion supporting Deborah and Sathrasham. We're going to send some to share Jesus, and all of that under loads of stuff called Enable. Okay, that was the picture I drew 5 years ago. You'd be good for remembering what that picture was, because I don't think it's right. Okay, and I want to give us a different picture today. So let's do a new one. Okay, there's nothing revelatory here. Let's try again. Okay, you see, because God's big plan is still to transform people. We saw from death to life, isn't it? That's what he longs to do, and he longs to bring us into a family. Let's have a family that's got men and women, James, and little people as well, into a family, doesn't he? But how does he take someone far off from Jesus and bring them? Well, he starts. This is where they are. They're out here. Okay, and he's going to take them. He's going to take them on a journey of someone engaging with them. It's going to be uphill. It's going to be a bit of a struggle. In fact, it's going to reach a point up here where they're brave and they explain Jesus to them. And then their journey is going to take somewhat of a downward step because they're going to be brought low to the foot of the cross, where, God willing, they come and are transformed by Jesus. They come to have life in him. They're brought into his family. And then the same thing, we long to establish them in their faith, to grow and build them up. And then we're going to send them out. We're going to send them out as we equip them to serve in the 21st century, to be Christians in the world and in the workplace. In fact, we're going to send some out all the way and we're going to export them. But it doesn't stop there, does it? Because I don't know about you, but when I hear of Emma in Thailand or Siam Pip in India or the persecuted church in Nigeria or North Korea, my heart is encouraged. I'm encouraged to start sharing and speaking about Jesus with people that I love and care for. You see how this starts to feed one another? You start to see how this is like a big circle. But it's not a circle, is it? Do you remember last week, one of the things I think I've got wrong in leading my own faithfulness as a church? What God longs to do at the heart of it all is us to enjoy him. Here is a church built around God's heart to transform lives, to be a growing family where lives are transformed by him. And this is God's plan, his purpose, his vision for his church worldwide, for Holy Trinity and for you and for I. You see, what happens is as Christians, we start to go, oh, do you know what? I've lost let's find my rubber. There it is. Do you know what? I'm just too busy. I can't make Sundays. So we'll take that bit out. There are other churches, sadly, who say, it's not my job to explain Jesus to anyone. Let's take that bit out. Perhaps others who will say, it's not about equipping you to live to be the best policeman or the best computer scientist you can be. We don't need that. Let's take that bit out. In fact, worldwide mission, well, some will do that, but I'll leave that to others. And engagement, well, we'll leave them with a pub. And what are you left with? Certainly not joy, is it? And there's not much me or others. You end up at best half-hearted. But God in his big plan longs for us, here it comes back, for us to be wholehearted, to have his heart as a church, as individuals, for our lives to be built around this. And so, dear friends, what we're going to try and do today, thank you, Steve, very much indeed. What we're going to try and do today is we're going to try and see how God longs for us to be wholehearted. Because we probably, if we've been a Christian for any length of time, we know we're not to be half-hearted. We probably know that's not what God longs and wants, is it? But do you remember me speaking last week, sharing about what God's done in my health? I still think I'm 18. I know health is important. I know what I eat needs to be a priority. But it's taken the last 2 years of drugs and doctors and treatments and osteopaths and operations and more things than I can count to make me realize, no, this needs to be a priority in the forefront of your mind. And so through these 3 weeks, what we want to do is take God's heart and help us as a church, as individuals, get it at the forefront of our mind, our hearts, and then pulsing around our veins, that we might have the same plan, purpose, and vision as he does for us as a church and for our lives. And what he longs for you, we're going to see today from these verses in John and Romans, is for us to be transformed, to be wholehearted. Wholehearted. All of his heart for our heart. In fact, the leaders of the church, the PCC, have set a goal, one of which for the next 5 years, longing for us, here's what they wrote, to be transformed, to be wholehearted disciples who love Jesus so much that they cannot help but live, serve, and speak for Jesus in the 21st century in all of life. Whole of heart, everywhere, all the time. That's what their longing is. And it's not just their longing of their desire, but of Jesus's. Let's come and have a look. If you've got John chapter 21 still open, please have a look. I think it's page 1090 in your Bibles. Because as we come to John 21, there's been 20 chapters before this, hasn't there? And here in this little scene, we've got Peter and Jesus. And I resonate with Peter. I don't know if you've been a Christian for any time. I resonate with Peter. You think you've got it, and then you haven't quite got it throughout the book. To the point whereby he reaches that moment where Jesus is arrested and he's asked 3 times, do you know him? And he answers 3 times, no. Even to the point where he feels the sadness as the cock crows of Jesus' own words being fulfilled. And here he is now on the beach with Jesus just after Jesus has died, and Jesus is going to ask him some questions. Now, I don't know if I can put you back in the shoes of that moment where you had to go to your parents or grandparents or teacher when you'd done wrong and you've kind of gone cap in hand, you know, how you're feeling, a little bit pensive, what's going to go on here. But here's Peter, the first time he's seen him since denying him 3 times. What's Jesus going to do? Is he going to give him the guilt trip? Is he going to say, like a good parent, well, what have you learnt from this experience? Are you going to try harder next time? What does he say to him? 3 questions, all the same. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you see how Peter feels about it? The first 2, he says, yes, Lord, I love you. The third, he's grieved. He's sad. Does he not think, does he not know what my heart is like, Peter, Jesus? Do you not know that I've realized I've done wrong, that I've watched you die to now forgive me? Is there no chance of a fresh start? Of course he knows. That's why he's come. But he asked him 3 times because he denied him 3 times. And as he asked him 3 times, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? The slate is clean, and all that is left is a relationship of forgiveness and love. Not will you serve me, not will you do stuff for me, not will you attend religious meetings for me, but will you love me? That is God's heart for you, friends. For me, that we would love Jesus. As Brits, as blokes, we sometimes aren't comfortable in speaking of that. But God's heart is for you to love him as he loves you. The most tender thing in a Christian's life is to see and hear them speak of their relationship with Jesus. In fact, if you want a good game, Sarah and I sometimes do this. It's called Church Website Bingo. You can go to a church website and see how many times you can spot Jesus. If he doesn't feature much, that will tell you about what the heart of their church is like. Don't go there. Because at the root of it all, regardless of all our activity, all our organization, all our facilities, is this loving relationship with Jesus. But yet sometimes I know that. But it doesn't permeate my heart like Peter was grieved here or rejoice. That's why God's given us ways of reconnecting reconnecting or recollecting together. I love my dad, but 2 big blokes, we don't do kind of love, we'd kind of do handshakes more than manly hugs. It's those times that are precious now where I sit down with my dad as we recollect, looking at the family album and see how once upon a time we both had hair, and the fun game we played of eating donuts off string with no hands. And as I recall and look back those moments of my father loving and caring for me, that even as a 38-year-old man, I feel my heart loving my dad. God is just the same. So often as Christians, we don't reconnect or recollect. And God in his grace has given us so many ways to do that so that you and I would have this transforming, loving Jesus relationship. That's why as a church, all we long to do on a Sunday or throughout the week is to help you grow in your love for Jesus. That's, if we're doing things that don't help you do it, please come and tell Harry and I. We'd love to stop them because they're not helping. That's why we do one-to-ones or life groups, as Harry's shared, or Sundays or midweek activities to help us do that. Will you take hold of those things, friends? That your heart may glow and delight and love Jesus more? As a young man who, I did name him in the first, but it wasn't very fair because this is going out on live stream, so he'll be nameless. Let's call him Simon, but it's not Simon, because there is a Simon here. And for the last 49 years, Simon had kind of been on the fringes of church. He'd kind of known Jesus, and then COVID hit. And through trial and tribulation, he was brought back into a church and heard the gospel afresh. It has been the biggest delight to watch as a pastor as that young man's heart and mind have been set ablaze with a love for the Lord Jesus that permeates out to his serving and to his work and family and life. At the very heart, a love for Jesus. That is what God longs for you. And friends, if you're not a Christian here today, God still longs that for you. He longs that you would come and see his heart. Perhaps Hope Explored, carrying on this Wednesday, might be a place for that. Don't just dismiss it, because God's heart is that you would love him and he would love you. But secondly, he doesn't just want to transform us to be wholehearted to love Jesus. He wants to transform us to be wholehearted to lovingly serve Jesus and his people. And if you flip over to Romans chapter 12 on 1139, we're going to stay there for the rest of our time together. Because as we come to these well-known verses of Romans, we see, don't we, what we're to do. Verse 1, present your bodies as living sacrifices. There's a wonderful irony there, because sacrifices normally are dead, but you and I are to be living sacrifices. It's like we're permanently giving out. We can't stop giving ourselves up, giving ourselves away and away. Look, to God. This is holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Wherever you are, whatever time of the week, whatever you're doing, you're to offer yourselves to God. What does it look like? Well, verse 2, it doesn't mean looking like the world. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world. Which, by the way, if you're ever in a church in the world and the church teaching is to affirm the world or affirm you that you're fine, you keep going, they're not probably doing what Romans chapter 12 verse 2 wants us to do. That's why we want to help establish and equip, because this is hard. It means living counter-cultural. It means being different from the world around me. It's trying to be holy and pleasing, this loving sacrifice. But what is this loving sacrifice? Well, verses 3 to 13 spell it out for us. It's to be loving and serving Jesus and his people. Because look what Jesus has given us. Verse 3, he's given us his grace. For by the grace given to me, I say to every one of you, here it comes, all these different things. And verse 6, they have been given different gifts by this grace, according to the grace given us. God in his grace has given you gifts. Gifts to use, verse 5, in his body, his people, to serve amongst his family. It's a wonderful joy and delight to see the multitude of ways people do that already. Serving in children's and youth work and teas and coffees and behind the scenes and buildings and gardening and car parking and paperwork and PCCs. Countless ways people serve. They're all playing their part. They're all using them together. And verse 3, we think of ourselves not with elevated status. It's not like Harry said, I'm going to use my gift of leading so you think how great I am. No, use your gift for the good of others. This is to the Lord. But here comes where you and I need to play our part. Verse 6, let us use our gifts in proportion to our faith. Use them. Friends, perhaps this morning we may not be so wholehearted because we're not using our gifts. Whether amongst God's people or whether throughout our week, we're going to think next week about how we use our gifts in the world outside. But where are we not using them? It's maybe stuff to say, well, I'm just so busy. I've just got lots on. I can't do all of that. But as your spiritual act of worship, where are you using them? It doesn't even have to be in a formal role. In a formal role. It could just be in encouragement. Verse 8, to encourage. Equally, you may think as you look at that list of gifts from verse 6 to 8, you may think, well, none of those quite feel like me. This isn't an exhaustive list. There isn't the gift of tambourine playing that Stephen has. But this is just a beginning list. The same principle remains. Use them. Use your gifts. Perhaps you may be able to use your gifts to fill some of the holes with the children's and youth work, the teenagers that need two leaders to help them grow in their faith. Or Creche, Mini Roots at this service, where there's parents, hello parents, are listening on the screen at the moment. Perhaps it might be our lunch club during the week to help our elderly saints enjoy a meal and fellowship together. Or it may be a whole new variety of ways. Where do you need to use your gifts? If I find myself reining them in, perhaps my heart isn't to this living sacrifice. Because then comes verses 9 to 13, kind of the air that flows amongst this church family, amongst God's people as they serve one another. If you want, the smell that kind of wafts off them. Don't think body odor, by the way, here at this point. Just think the culture. What is it I find as I meet these people, as they serve one another? Well, here they come, verse 19 to 13, quick fire. Their love is genuine. They don't do what's evil. They love one another with a deep affection. They outdo one another in showing good. They're not lacking in zeal. They're serving the Lord. They're joyful. They're patient. They're faithful in prayer. They're sharing with God's people. They practice hospitality. Don't you want to be amongst a group of people like that? Perhaps a few that particularly, I wonder whether resonate with us. Perhaps the teenagers may, with this one, lacking in zeal or not slothful. Yesterday morning, I tried to convince the boys to tidy up their room. Oh, Dad, why do I have to tidy up my room? Anyway, off they went to tidy up their room. 30 minutes later, go in. What have you done, boys? Well, I've been thinking about it. Perhaps we're easily danger in a big church of just easy to sit back, just let others, thinking, what can I bring? How could we show fervor, zeal to serve? Where John asks, is there anyone available? And he's got 42 volunteers before he's even finished his sentence. Equally, verse 12, what about being faithful in prayer? Like any church, Holy Trinity's smallest meeting of all that it puts on is its prayer meeting. I know I often feel it's like the dentist. I don't really want to go, if I'm honest. Not really going to fill me with much fun and delight. It's one to endure. But a prayer meeting, whether it starts feeling like a dentist, it will not be like the dentist. It'll be one of joyful thankfulness as my heart is encouraged, as brothers and sisters help me to pray. And I can ask them to pray for things. What might it like be for be faithful in prayer? Not just in a prayer meeting, by the way, but throughout the day, throughout life, throughout wherever you are. Perhaps of just stopping those moments or making a commitment. I know someone who's set an alarm every hour for 2 minutes just to pray for 2 people. Where would it mean for us to be faithful in prayer? I know my heart longs to do stuff. I need to stop and I need to be faithful in prayer. In fact, some of the best things I could do for you is not to do stuff for you, but to stop and pray for you. Equally, verse 13, practice hospitality. One of the things people often say about Holy Trinity is what a lovely, welcoming bunch we are. But when was the last time you let someone into your house from this church family that you haven't known for more than 5 years? I think one of the challenges of Southern English Christianity is that we're happy to come and be, but we don't let people behind the veneer of our lives. One of the biggest blessings Sarah and I have known in our Christian lives is people who will let us willing to come into the chaos. Even to experience jacket potato and beans, because that's all they had. To show hospitality. It's not, by the way, Michelin star restaurant. Welcome to Chateau Le Hills, and the first course will be. It's just opening up and sharing. Whether saying, you can borrow my car, can I cook you a meal, come to my house, let's have a coffee. How can you show hospitality? Friends, the world doesn't do it. How could we be different? How might this year hospitality be a feature of church life? Praise the Lord for Anne showing us hospitality at lunch in a few moments' time. How could you and I do that in the weeks to come? You see, because this is the work God is doing. He's transforming his people to love Jesus and to lovingly serve Jesus and his people. That's what he longs for you and for I. That's what he's doing amongst our church family, to make us wholehearted with all those pieces in place. That's his purpose and plan and vision. So that my dream may be your dream, which is God's dream. That you and I would be a bunch of people that is wholeheartedly committed to Jesus, passionate about him, longing to listen to his word and pour out our hearts to him in prayer. A church family that's made up of all sorts of people, black and white, rich and poor, healthy and not, educated and uneducated, abled and differently abled. A church family where love and care cuts through every part of it, where people are willingly opening up their homes, sacrificing for each other, spurring one another on and encouraging them. A church family that's out in the world, because Jesus has promised, when you love one another, by this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. A church family that's not a dead institution or a boring place to be, but one whose heart is pulsing fervently with love for Jesus and lovingly serving him and each other. Let me pray. Loving Father, you know our hearts this morning. You know perhaps where we feel like we're half-hearted. You know the struggles and challenges we face. You know perhaps where other exciting things have caught our attention more than Jesus. Lord, we dare to ask, please would you transform us, that we may be your wholehearted people, that you may spark that flame of our relationship with Jesus You may re-spark that desire to serve your people, that we may know the joy of your plan and purpose for us. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.